part 3 of this interview, Will goes through a Q&A of the questions you, as Leaving Cert students, have asked him. And he comes up with some fantastic answers, such as he displays an ability to actually teach history. So he shows you his best tips in order to actually structure an essay.
Okay, part 3, Will. Part 3. So time for the kind of Q&A part. So we've got loads of questions went out to loads of people. We've answered some of them already, but feel free to re-answer them again, because people, I suppose, would like the direct answer to that part of the question. Some people might only want the Q&A from their part. So I'm going to ask you all these questions, and sure, we'll see how we go. First of all, and I know you answered this yesterday, from Patrick Harty, would you recommend global business in DCU?
Oh yeah, yes, I would. Good course, nice small course, only 13 people, and of course you have the lure of the 2 years in Boston at the end. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
Unbelievable. Now you don't have to go into massive detail, because we mentioned a good few of them. What are your best study tips from James Breslin?
Hey James.
You know,
yeah,
James?
so it all comes back to spaced repetition, testing, interleaving, and categorization.
What does interleaving mean?
Interleaving, that is essentially, say you're working on maths and you're doing like one type of question. If you just keep doing the same type of question over and over and over again, your brain just kind of goes on autopilot, because you don't have to figure out like what method to use. So it's best to mix up the questions and the different types of questions in a particular study session.
So that kind of what I say would recommend students in maths or biology is they do a good few on a certain topic until they're comfortable. Then they intertwine another topic, and then they intertwine like another one and another one until they build up to a full exam. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah. And like to put some of these into practice, I think first of all, like the main thing before you do any of that kind of stuff for memorization, you really just want to try and get a really solid understanding of what you're learning. Otherwise it's not going to stick as well. Mm-hmm. So something really powerful for doing that is called the Fineman Technique, where you basically ask yourself, okay, could I explain this to a 5-year-old? Or maybe if that's not feasible, could I explain this to one of my friends that doesn't do the subject? Mm-hmm. And that forced you to just keep drilling down to the very basics of what it is you're studying, and just keep asking, okay, this happens, so why does that happen? Why? Keep asking why, and you'll see if you do have a solid understanding, and try and reveal some of those gaps. And then spaced repetition is one of the core principles as well, and that's basically based on this experiment done in the middle of the last century, I think, where this guy found out there was basically a forgetting curve for learning new materials. So when you learn something new, you forget it at an exponential rate, but then if you can interrupt that forgetting curve just before you forget something, the curve gets less and less. So say you study something, you forget 50% of it by the next day, you then study it again, you forget maybe 50% of it by the next week, and then it becomes a month. So you end up being able to know it for longer and longer. Mm-hmm. And something like a lot of students do for this, I think, is Anki flashcards, which has basically an algorithm baked into it, where the questions that you get right, it won't give you for a while, but the questions that you say are hard, it will keep giving you until you actually know them. So that kind of brings in testing and spaced repetition. But another way of doing it is just on a Google spreadsheet, listing the topics in one column, and then in each column going out, you put in the date that you studied it, and color code it like green, yellow, orange, red, or whatever, based on how well you know it on that date. And then when you're looking through different subjects for things to study, you'll be able to see which is red, which is green, and you can like leave for a different time, and you can go and study the reds until they're green, of course. And that's, I found, a pretty effective way. Instead of setting out in advance, like every single thing you're going to study before an exam, like 6 months before, and you don't even know what you're going to have trouble with, kind of just every time you study something, taking a note of it. How difficult was it? Okay. And then when you're the start of a new day, you're going back and you're seeing, okay, what's red? I'll study that. That's an effective way of doing it, I think.
Unbelievable. Some serious good things there. How did you feel about your pre-leaving cert results? So your Christmas exams, how did you feel? Were you happy or were you not happy?
Marks, I was grand. Christmas, I was kind of, because I got decent in 50 or summer as well. But so Christmas, I was just kind of a bit disappointed, and I suppose it gave me a bit of a fire under my belly to get after it, and didn't look back after that really.
Did you do history?
I did, yeah.
What are your top tips for history? Because someone's asked that, so I don't know. You said you did history the last one. Sean,
Yeah.
Your top tips for history.
So history is a great one, actually. You have to be quick at writing, but otherwise, it's pretty good and it's interesting. So it's very essay based. It's like all essays. So I devised a bit of I got this from a guy on YouTube called Ali Abdal. He's like kind of my go-to study tip guy on YouTube. ALIABDAAL. But it's basically an essay memorization framework. So there's basically 3 stages to learning off an essay, and it's create, and then 2 stages: create and then commit to memory. So when you're creating it, you want to first kind of do a brain dump of like everything you know, maybe about 3 stages actually. You choose which essays you're going to do, then you kind of create your essay plans, and then you commit them to memory. In terms of like choosing which essays you're going to do, you actually have a fair bit of choice in history. So you want to choose the ones that are going to give you kind of the most cover of the course, and they have kind of different blocks of information that could go into different essays. And obviously like kind of maybe go by the predictions as well. But I'd say 5 per topic. The guys who do history will know it will suffice. Then once you've chosen the right ones, do like a brain dump of everything you know on the topic. And then you need to kind of plan out your essay. When you're planning, think about kind of structure. Is it nicely structured? And does it conform to the marking scheme? Think about answering the question, of course. There was I think 2 years back, a question about Stalin and World War II, and a lot of people got like 12 out of 60 because they wrote about entirely wrong things. So that's kind of a caveat there. Make sure you're answering the question, and then throwing in a bit of flair as well. And this is where you want to kind of separate yourself. So the best place to throw this in is definitely the introduction. Because like anyone who's marked papers will tell you that they read a stellar introduction, and they've kind of given the person the benefit of the doubt for the rest of the paper. They'd probably say they try not to, but it's the way that it happens. So like a really strong introduction, and you get the examiner on your side. So that could be using a source for like a little quote at the start of your history essay that no one else is going to use, and that kind of sets you apart. So do your brain dump, then kind of structure it up, and write your plan. And then the way to memorize it, I found, is there are a lot of tactics again, but if you can maybe describe an event, or just say you said, I don't know, Sunningdale agreements on a flashcard, and then you had on the back of the flashcard basically whatever you're going to write about that in your essays. And that's a good way of testing yourself on the different like chunks of information that you might have in a particular essay. And then once you've kind of done a few different, done flashcards on those, and kind of have those chunks of information from different essays committed to memory, then try and mind map basically the essay from memory, and just write kind of the different headings, and you'll be able to elaborate on them in the exam, but just write the headings so you can have the kind of essay on the page. I know that's a lot of information, but it's a good system. And if you look up essay memorization framework on YouTube, you should get it. There are other things you can do. For history, it's pretty date heavy. So there is a technique called the PEG system, whereby you essentially, like, the human brain is not so good at kind of trying to remember abstract things, like numbers we're really bad at. So, but images and words were actually pretty good. So this PEG system gives numbers letters, and then you're able to make words out of the different dates to make them more memorable. You know, definitely you don't have to do this, but it is something that you could add to your arsenal. And then there is the mind palace technique as well, which was kind of popularized in Sherlock Holmes. But you basically say you take a date and then you use the PEG system to make it a word. And then say you're going through your essay, and you kind of envision a really familiar place to you. Say like your walk down to your local shop, and you'll be able to place the dates like along that path, so you can like associate it with a particular place. You probably need to do some more digging on that technique to be able to use it. And I know it might be a bit extreme for someone 2 months out from the leaving, but it is another thing you could consider as well.
I'm just looking at the other questions here. That's a lot on history. Mate, you should teach history.
Yeah, no, it's applicable to pretty much any subject as well.
Yeah, so. No, I agree. I think geography would be another one. Do you do geography?
Yeah.
Probably on probably business and that sort of crack. So
business for sure, yeah.
I'm only going to ask you two more questions on this, because a lot of the questions in there was actually made up the theme of our first two parts to this.
Okay, yeah.
So there is loads of questions here, and I could go through. We could have you here for hours, but I'm conscious you've given us a lot of your time yesterday and a lot of your time again today, and I really, really, really appreciate it. But just in a couple of the other questions, one of them was, how have you adopted your habits in response to having to stay inside your house, or in response to quarantine or isolation or whatever it's called? How have you personally adopted your habits?
Adapted
your habits.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal, but like I'm lucky. I have a bit of a home gym going on, which won't be the case for many. But if I didn't, in terms of exercise, you can still very much like go for a short run, do some body weight exercises in the house, and there's definitely plenty of things you can do. And then I guess most of the kind of the other stalwarts, like meditation, is still viable. Like you can still, maybe you might have to change like swimming for a cold shower or something. And if you wanted to do that, then there's I suppose the work habits almost benefit from this kind of time in isolation. The best work, or the best deep study work, is done in isolation. So like if you have your set workspace and you can set that up, that's gonna be good for you as well. And then other habits, I suppose like most of them can be done in the house. You don't have to adapt them too much.
Yeah, it's not too like one of my habits is not going down and hanging around, standing beside the bus stop, or one of my habits is not going down to the local grocery and shaking people's hands. So
as long as it's not going around shaking everyone's hand, or if you skiing in Northern Italy.
Yeah, exactly. If you flip your mind, if you say you said the Jocko Willink, if you say good, well then suddenly you can actually go deep on a serious amount of things, because you don't have. I know this is probably you don't have to commute anywhere. You don't have the time and that you can take breaks.
It does give you a lot of time, for sure. a lot of extra time that you're not commuting, and But I guess like it can almost feel like one long day, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
probably key to do that, like you said, the section off time where you're finished and you're doing other stuff.
Yeah, add a bit of spice in there if you can. Go for walks.
I'll add a bit of spice for you here. Did you see the David Goggins online workout that he did for this?
I didn't. No, I was afraid to look.
If you give it a go, see if you can do it. I am full on, one of the hardest things I've ever done, and you needed zero equipment. Nearly puked everywhere.
How long was it?
1 hour. There's another one that's 45 minutes, which is pretty tough, but the 1 hour one, he doesn't tell you the reps or anything like that, and it's
you're just following along.
Yeah, it was good though. If anyone wanted to try that out, that was horrendous. And another one.
There's also another accessible thing you could do in way of exercise. I've seen a lot of people doing it. It's like the Murph challenge. An army thing. Basically, you in the army they wear a weighted vest, but they go for a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then a mile run again to finish off. Fill a backpack with a few things and do it that way. It's probably more accessible to more people than the David Goggins thing.
Yeah, probably is. I actually Murph is my favorite workout. Yeah, there's one called Chad, CrossFit Chad. It's 1,000 step ups. So all you need is a step, and you wear you fill a backpack with weight. I used a weighted vest. I did it twice since we've been in isolation, and it's 1,000 step ups. It takes about an hour, and you're sweating and blowing at the end of it. So all you need is, you'd probably be tough without a weighted vest, but it's 20-inch box or a step or whatever, so you can make that yourself, or a chair. Anyway,
there are a lot of the CrossFit ones. Even an easy enough one would be like Fat Amy. That's all body weight stuff.
Yeah. That's the name of the workout, just to clarify.
Yeah. And then like everyone, like all the fitness people are obviously uploading their own like home workouts as well. So if you were thinking that gyms being closed was meant no exercise for you, then there are plenty of options out there.
Get your ass back in the game.
And also, if for people who might not exercise too much, like even throughout the day doing, I don't know, on the hour, every hour, like a quick Tabata set of something, like burpees or I don't know, like some kind of ab exercise. That's a good way to stay kind of
awake,
fit, and also it's like manageable if you break it up in small bits throughout the day, and also stay focused as well.
Sweet. Well, we'll let you go. Thanks so much again. Really appreciate this. Looking forward to it helping people again. You've stepped up again for the community, and for a lot of people, I'd say, sitting at home that are feeling a little bit off. They've got some seriously actionable techniques and ideas for them to help pull them through, but also not just for the Leaving Cert, to help boost them for forever, I guess.
Yeah, and like I do just want to say, like, obviously, I don't have all the answers, so to take everything I say with a pinch of salt. And I don't want to be too like prescriptive about it. But if you find any of this helpful, apply what you think is useful, and discard the rest. And hopefully some of it is useful for some people, adds a bit of value.
Unbelievable. Will, thank you very much, and I look forward to chatting to you again very soon. You inspire me. You inspire tons of people. Keep on.
You inspire me, Dave. You inspire me.
I'm what to run away from, am I? Yeah. Any mess. All right, Will. Thanks so much.